Martini, 46 Highland Road. This is a request for adoption of a Soames Land Acknowledgement Resolution and for establishing of usage guidelines. And then I just do also want to note there is a received at meeting letter of support from Andrea Round that the council finds on their dais.
Thank you. Thank you. So what's in front of this council, actually, Tony, you're here. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Thank you.
We do have it. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please continue.
My name is Tony Martini. I live at 46 Highland Road.
Thank you.
And I'm here to put in front of you, and hopefully you will adopt, a petition to adopt a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement simply says that we acknowledge that we're living in a place that has been occupied for thousands of years by the indigenous people, in this case the Poconokeets. There's a number of the tribe here, as a matter of fact, tonight, interesting, including the sage Tracy Brown. As a matter of fact, you asked for a show of hands before. If I could ask for a show of hands of people who are here for this. I just wanted to make a point. Excuse me. Well, while this started out as sort of mine, it has my name on it, it's become ours. A lot of people have expressed support. And I'll tell you why I started thinking about it. So I'm a tour guide at the State House and have been for 4.5 years. We start our tours by looking up in the dome and looking at a picture of Roger Williams, talking to the Narragansett sachems about about establishing a settlement. And that's sort of, if you know the story, that's where most of us school children learn about it. In fact, it started before that. So when Roger came down from Boston, from the Baycon, he was thrown out, threatened with expulsion back to England. He came down, he had pneumonia, it was the winter, and he was taken in by Usamiquin, the Massasoit of the Pokanoket, the great chief of the Pokanoket, and nursed back to health. Had he not been nursed back to health out of pneumonia in that winter, he never would have had the opportunity to meet with the Narragansetts and establish Rhode Island. So it's fair to say that if not for the Pokanokets, if not for Usamiquin, we might be Massachusetts now. Not necessarily a bad thing, but we wouldn't probably be Rhode Island. But even before that, Usamiquin is the chief who met with the Pilgrims when the Pilgrims first stepped ashore in Plymouth. We all learned about the Pilgrims being greeted by local people, taught them how to plant corn, and helped them survive that first winters really. That, in fact, was also Usamiquin, the same gentleman. He also signed a treaty, a peace treaty with the Pilgrims that assured mutual self-defense. So the Pokanokets' history here before that was thousands of years. Our history is closely intertwined with the Pokanokets' history. And not many people necessarily know that or learned that, and we haven't really, I don't think, acknowledged that in the degree we can. So what this land acknowledgement does is say that we acknowledge that we live in, I'll read it very quickly. Welcome to Soames, which is where we live. It's what the Pokanoket call this area. Sort of think of it as the East Bay and sort of the immediately adjacent towns into Massachusetts. Welcome to Soames, the home of the Pokanoket tribe for over 10,000 years prior to settler colonization. We acknowledge that our community was a part of the larger ancestral home of the Pokanoket tribe, and we recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between the indigenous people and their traditional territory. As the place of Metacom's seat at the base of Potomtuck, which is their name for Mount Hope. It means lookout, by the way. It was their place for obvious reasons. As the place of Metacom's seat at the base of Potomtuck, let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing responsibility to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Pokanoket tribal people for the benefit of the land and water of Soames, our land and water. It's that simple. There is no more to it than that, but I think it's profound. I mean, if you look at who is in support of this, first of all, it's important to know Warren did one 4 or 5 years ago. They were sort of the first ones in the East Bay. Barrington has since done one. East Providence has done one. Coggeshall Farm has one. Mount Hope Farm has one. And there are a number of communities on the West Bay that have them. If you look at the folks that wrote letters in support, so say Bristol Harbor, they're here. Middle Passage Marker Project. The school district, Diane Santa is working to incorporate Pokanoket Indigenous people's history into the social studies curriculum to actually align with new social studies regulations from RIDE. So, and the Indigenous people's part in that is going to be critical. So this land acknowledgement, she was very happy to see it because it fits perfectly with what she's doing. The Bristol Historical and Preservation Society, Solom's Heritage Area, which is the new one you just saw, and then of course the Pokanoket Tribe, Tracy's letter. They all have common themes if you sort of read through them. I just read them again before we came out. They all talk about stewardship, taking care of the land and water, taking care of this land that we have occupied together now for 400 years, and they occupied for thousands of years before that. And it also talks about our shared history, which we have. We share our history with the tribe, the indigenous people. So this land acknowledgement says what I just read. You have it in your document. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's 3 sentences. I will tell you, East Providence's is long. Warren's is longer than this. This sort of pares it down to its essential bits. It's had, again, as I said, enormous support from the community. You folks know I've been up here in front of you for a number of different reasons over the years. This actually surprised me with the amount of support that I've seen. People are pretty, the words that I hear are, it's about time. So let's hope with your respectfully ask that you adopt the language. It's a 2-part petition, right? The first part is to adopt this language as our land acknowledgement, as the town's land acknowledgement. The second part is to discover, deliver, develop, that's the right word, usage guidelines, promulgate some usage guidelines. In Warren, they have a sign. It's included in your packet. It's about 3 feet square. There's a sign at Coggeshall Farm. Towns choose to start their meetings with it. As an example, I would think that we would want to at least promulgate it to our boards and commissions to let them know that we've done this, so they have it. The ideal place to be with this is what Susan and I saw in the Canadian Rockies last year. The people there of Canada, they call their Indigenous people First Nations, have internalized it. So when you go on like a tour which we did, some tours of some small lakes, or you're out in the woods or something, the guides start, as they're taking you out, by talking about where you are. And they talk about it in these terms. It really struck us. So we live in a special place. We're really proud of our history, and rightfully so. What this does is talk about the entirety of our history, right? It sort of shows where we are as a people and where our visitors are when they come to visit us. So, if I could, Tracy, would you like to say? Could I bring Tracy up to say
Yes,
a
of course.
couple of words?
Hello, my name is Pokanoket Tracy Dancing Star. I am Sachem of the Pokanoket Tribe. I live in Barrington, Rhode Island.
Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for affording me time to speak. I think Tony, you did a wonderful job of giving a lot of information. I'll make my comment very brief. I would just like to say that knowing the history of the land of which you inhabit is a very important step toward taking pride and finding value in the land. The story of the Pokanoket tribe and its role in history has shaped Bristol into what it is today. The proposal of this land and waterways acknowledgement means recognizing and honoring lands and places that are historically and culturally significant starting from the very beginning. We are all part of this community, and what better way is there to come together to care for it than to start with this very acknowledgement. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Tony.
I assume you're from-
Definitely in support. Just wanted to ask about the adopted language and the expectation. Would there be an expectation to read it at every town meeting, every board and commission, or is it more we would adopt the language and it would be available to us when we needed to
It's
read
really
it?
the latter, Tim. Again,
Okay.
the petition is in two discrete pieces. The first is to adopt the language, those 3 sentences. And the second piece is to determine how you'd like to use it, right? So, I mean, I can tell you, as the chair of the Conservation Commission, land and water is important to us. So I would imagine we would start our meeting, probably not with a recitation, word for word, line for line, but more, as I say, sort of just let's talk about where we are and why we're doing this, right? We're doing this for our current residents and the current people of Bristol, but also in recognition of the point that we've been here a long time, and this place has been here a long time, and there are people who have occupied it before us. Again, I know Barrington, I'm pretty sure Warren actually starts their town council meetings with it. I don't know if this is the extreme example or not, but we're big hockey fans. So Stanley Cup playoffs this year, before the Edmonton Oilers games, in their stadium with a roaring crowd, a chief of the Cree Nation came on the Jumbotron and welcomed everybody to Cree territory. And then they sang the Canadian national anthem and they played hockey. So it can be used in whatever way we see fit. That's sort of the second part. I didn't want to, if you will, dictate that part of it. I just wanted to ask that we create that, we develop it, we promulgate the land acknowledgement words.
Tony, thanks for all the work that you've done on this. I know that you've really been engaging with the tribes and some of the other organizations in town about this. We have something similar at University of Rhode Island with our new president who came in. They developed a land acknowledgement statement. And so when we have our exercises for commencement, there's usually somebody from the local tribe who will come and read the land acknowledgement at this one singular event that we have at the university. And then the university has adopted this land acknowledgement, but they give the discretion to anybody who might be a professor or an employee or anybody for that matter to, if they want to add it to their email signature, they can add it to their email signature. I'm the director of an MPA program. We have monthly meetings. If I wanted to, I could, give the land acknowledgement. Now, one of the things that I think would be kind of powerful or nice about this as well is would be if there was an organization that came to town, and I've seen this actually happen twice. And we would have organizations that come to downtown that might want to have a celebration. So the USS, the Golden Peace, is that what it was called? The Golden Deed. There was the arrival of a ship that came into town, and they wanted to do a land acknowledgement, but we didn't have a one that was adopted by the town. So they may have found their own land acknowledgement, but it wasn't specific to the town of Bristol. It wasn't specific to the tribes that were here on this land. I also remember at the Juneteenth celebration, I see some folks here from the Juneteenth celebration, where there was also a land acknowledgement read that was not a town adopted land acknowledgement that didn't really kind of get into the local nature of what has happened in history over here. And it wasn't one I didn't think that did as much to respect some of the traditions and the cultures and everything like that. So it's my, do you envision maybe the statement being something that could be seized by organizations maybe who are looking to have events here?
I mean, certainly if it's in place, I'm sorry, Tracy, if it's available, certainly. So,
Of course, any organization would be able to use that land acknowledgement statement. I just wanted to come and say that it was the golden rule. And I gave the land acknowledgement statement.
Golden Deed, Golden Peace. Yes.
We welcomed
And
them.
so the land acknowledgement that you gave was probably perfect then.
I gave the Pokanoket land acknowledgement statement. We went there when they arrived at Fox Point, and we
Yes.
greeted them. We did a ceremony for them, and we gave a land acknowledgement statement then. And then we came here for the send-off, and we gave the prayer and another land acknowledgement.
So I guess my question, Tracy, then is, do you think it would be valuable for us to have a town adopted statement?
Yes.
That you could read for, like, an event if,
Yes, I
if
do.
you were to arrive and participate?
Yes.
Okay.
And in my absence, someone could read it,
Yes.
because it would already be in place.
And I think the other important point to be made was that there was engagement with the tribe here in the development of this statement, which I think
Yes,
is
there was.
absolutely critical.
Yes, Tony
in your-
reached out to
yeah.
me, and we did work on it
Okay,
together.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't know if I would call it a question. I do think it's important to have this and to acknowledge this history. I mean, we have, you know, like the King Philip's Chair on the Mount Hope Bay, and that is like a very, very historic site, and books have been, at least one book, I don't know, there may be many, been written about that, and our role in certainly the Lake Placid Trust and, you know, the land acknowledgements that we've had. So I think we have been, you know, involved with that. I'm not sure as many people maybe go down, like, you know, when Brown had the Heffenraffer Museum down there, you know, there was a lot more, I think, activity around this topic, you know, before it was moved, like with school children and, you know, visitors going down to see all this, see the land, see the artifacts. I do think it would be, as I mentioned to you on the phone, like maybe a QR code, wherever we do something, wherever the right place would be, just to know the history of this area. And, I mean, I'm happy that the schools are going to be focusing further on local and state history and US. It's really taken a back seat in civics in general. So I think that that's all good. So it's just a matter, I think, I don't have an issue as much with the acknowledgement, it's just what we're going to do with it. Like, I don't really see us reciting it at every meeting or anything like that. It's, but I do think there's the, you know, the lands that are on the east side of town that, you know, that we can be, you know, using more. So I think there's like a lot of potential. I just don't know what the answer is right now, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
And it can be a living, evolving thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what we decide today could be, we'll have the acknowledgement we can do as we please going forward, obviously.
Yes, you know, I fully understand. When I was in high school, I was there one time. I had two teachers that I actually visit many times, you know. Mary alluded to the Heffenraffer Museum, the chief's chair. You know, I remember Miss Borges and Mr. Jeff Ferrier, and there was another teacher I had that were very involved. Actually, it was a class called Humanities. You know, it was very involved, and it was quite an interesting class. And those teachers, they took great interest in the culture, you know, in the history of the town of Bristol. There was no doubt about that. The only thing I would caution with this, first of all, as far as, you know, passing on to boards and commissions, I don't think we should impose that on them. That definitely would not be something I would favor. Neither would I favor that we would open up a meeting, you know, with a statement. The other fact is the wording here, it may appear harmless, but we have another item going forward, F6, that at one point we thought it was harmless. In fact, I was the administrator, and I signed off on that, thinking we acquired a piece of land. But anyway, that's for another time. So here, I would be very cautious, the wording. You know, when we use the word accepting responsibility, acknowledging, you know, when we acknowledging things and accepting responsibility, how far is that going to take us? Maybe not now, it's harmless, don't worry about it, you know, but what is in the long term, the responsibility that will come back, you know, to haunt us? So I would be very cautious in passing this as is in supporting many of these items.
Okay, so I like a lot of what has been said. I think some things are covered. I do agree with what's already been said, that I would not follow Barrington's lead and have anything said, not at this council in that regard, or at our boards or commissions. So that's,
Yeah, that's why the second part is to flip it to you to decide. This is Bristol, we're a separate place.
so some or all of you may know that the town is purchasing land from Brown University with the intention, like we do with all of it, it's open space forever. It would seem appropriate to me, and it was actually something that we were going to do anyway, but we could, we'll say, improve the words with signage there. And signage that is similar, you pointed out, Warren's sign, and I don't mean follow their words, but the general design of it. And I would picture it as almost the trailhead there. There is no trail there, not at least.
That's until the Conservation Commission gets there,
So-
starts cutting.
But we would look at that and possibly start there. So I would be amenable to signage there. But I do believe that if this council wants to move forward, the next step would be to refer to the solicitor, take a look at, as Tony pointed out, is there any future problematic words? Is there any advice they give? And certainly Barrington did that, Warren did that, and that's something that makes the most sense here. So we could have feedback from the solicitor at our next meeting. If this council decided that it wanted to move forward, then we would move with some of that legal information. So if everybody's amenable to referring it to the solicitor and then taking a next step, generally speaking, whether the signage goes, how it goes, verbiage and all of that we can work on. Council's thoughts?
I think
Yeah,
it should be like
Chairman.
one, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I think it should be like one step at a time, like I agree with, like we can get the language squared away, and that should be relatively the next meeting or so. And we could adopt that, and then whatever we're going to do with it, I mean, we're still finalizing that property purchase. And so, I mean, we have a little bit of time to
Right.
figure out how this is gonna be used and what we're gonna do with it. So I don't think we should wait for the whole thing to be resolved. I think we can do
Step by
we can
step.
adopt this and then we can figure out the next step.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, I think, and colleagues, I think that this land acknowledgement really recognizes the Pokanoket history and their sacred grounds in Tumtuck, which is Mount Hope, which is here in town. And the approval tonight, I think, is super important because it sends a really strong message as that we recognize their history and we want a sustainable future for the Pokanoket tribe. And remember, the American dream is not just built on a few, it's built on many. So I think I'd like to make a motion to take the next steps forwards to either adopt this language, have the solicitor review it, and then we also explore maybe usage of the signage maybe down the road. Or does anybody want to make a suggestion on that?
So Tim, your motion was to refer to the solicitor. I wasn't clear, I apologize. So to refer to the solicitor and then come back with us
To adopt this language, but refer to the
Or-
solicitor, yeah.
Okay.
to
But
refer
if we
to.
adopt the concept, that we move forward in the concept,
Move
we're just
south.
working on the language
Well said.
to make sure that it's appropriate,
Exactly.
whatever, yeah.
That we agree to the concept
Yeah.
tonight. I think I agree with you there. We can agree to that, and then we can just have the solicitor take a look at the language and explore the usage of signage down the road. I think we want to figure out what the best spot is,
Where-
how it's going to look, what it's going to be.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
And just a question for
Discussion?
the solicitor, did I hear Barrington and Warren both have their solicitors look at, is this a common? Okay, yeah,
Not Warren, but
Yeah.
I did look at, the statement's a little different
okay.
there, but yeah, I did review that language.
Is it, when I came into this, I would have never thought that there would be some legal consequences of adopting a land acknowledgement statement. I did a little bit of research on it, but what I read about it was that there's not really a whole lot of legal concern about that.
And obviously, with the statement in Barrington, that's the conclusion that I came to. So I'm gonna go back and review that in connection with this, and we'll come back to you at your meeting. I think your next meeting is September 18th.
18th, yeah.
And we will
Yes.
certainly have an opinion for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
So just, thank you. Could I just be, so you'll be looking at the language as submitted for.
Correct.
I just want.
That's it. Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.